Welcome back to Best of British here on Sky Sports. We now have a look at this year's TVR Tuscan Challenge, one of the most spectacular and closely fought of all the one-make series. The reigning champion was Colin Blower, and he was at the front of the grid at Alton Park for round one as the lights went green. The 4.5 litre, 450 horsepower monsters rumbled their way down to Old Hall, and it was Tim Harvey, the reigning British touring car champion, who took the lead. Harvey had won a race at Donington in his touring car run-out just the day before. He was determined to make Easter successful. Simon Wayne and Steve Cole, they battled past him and then battled for the lead, with Preston driver John Kent in third place and reigning champion Blower down in fourth. Cheshire driver Chris Marries was having a great scrap with John Barker. The journalist had switched from Caterham 7 racing into TVRs. He tried to get past Marries on the way down to Island Bend. The gap wasn't quite big enough though. Across the line, the battle for the lead raged on. Simon Wayne and Liverpudlian Steve Cole absolutely nose to tail until Cole just found the gap was big enough to accommodate him and the Tuscan. Wayne dropped back to second and then to third as John Kent came right up onto the tail of Steve Cole as they charged down to the Knickerbrook chicane. On this, the final lap, Kent was determined to try and find a way past Steve Cole, who many years ago made a habit of beating TVRs in his Morgan. Kent right on the tail as they went up the hill under the bridge. They came towards Druids, the gap between them fluctuating, but still Kent wasn't quite close enough to challenge. There was only Lodge Corner to go, and that was at the end of the next short straight. Kent put his foot down and really went for it. He closed right up as they came into the braking area, and there wasn't quite room on the outside. Out of Lodge, up Dearly, and accelerating towards the checkered flag. Victory in the first round of the championship at Alton Park would go only just to Steve Cole, with John Kent a very close second. From Cheshire, the series moved on to Northamptonshire. Round two would take place at Silverstone on the national circuit. Journalist Mark Hales took pole position, with John Kent second at Alton Park, second on the grid here at Silverstone. The lights went green, and away went the Tuscans. Another good start from Tim Harvey, but a very bad start from pole sitter Mark Hales, as he dropped behind Kent and Cole as they went into Cops Corner side by side. Steve Cole had the inside, and he tried to get the lead as TVR chairman Peter Wheeler in number 8 on the outside line with the right-hander. The run up towards Beckett for the first time. Kent just nosed ahead of Steve Cole, but Cole had the inside with the tight right-hander of Beckett and fought back. Kent kept that lead though as they went back down towards Brooklands, under the bridge, through the kink. Cole was challenging, Hales was up to third, and Tim Harvey fourth ahead of Blower. On the grass went Simon Wade. He then spun in the middle of the pack. He got attacked by Chris Marries and by John Barker, while Graham Nash spun out as well, as did Bob Sands. It was all getting rather destructive, and then Martin Cross put his car in the middle of Cops, and out came the red flag to stop the race. cars formed up on the grid, ready for the restart. Tim Harvey, another driver, hoping for a good getaway. Once again, it was John Kent and Steve Cole that left pole sitter Mark Hales for dead and stormed off down towards Cops Corner, side by side. Cole again on the inside line, and Tim Harvey had a very busy bit of road in front of him. Up through the gears, up now towards Maggots, and then the tight right-hander of Beckett's. Kent was soon under pressure though from Mark Hales. Bearded journalist challenged on the inside as they came down into Brooklands. The gap though wasn't quite big enough. Stayed behind, challenging all the way around the lap. Steve Cole just managed to hang out in front. Accelerating up towards the checkered flag, the aggregate result would see Cole win on the road, but Hales would win on aggregate. Round 3 of this year's TVR Tuscan Challenge, though, took the cars away from England into Ireland on Jello Park. 2 races, rounds 3 and 4, with Mark Hales definitely now the man in form. TVR engineer Neil Anderson made a cracking start in the first race, while TVR chairman Peter Wheeler was again involved in the thick of the action. Simon Wade attacked Anderson and then spun himself off in front of everybody. Mondello was crowded enough at the best of times. Simon Wade's added hazard really livened up the first corner. Then came his 3-point turn. Up front, it was Hales from Blower and Chris Marries. Nose to tail, they battled their way through Mondello Park. This is what happened to Neil Anderson. He got a boot in the back. Simon Wade then spun in front of everybody else. Graham Nash and Mark Goddard take avoiding action on the grass on the outside as Anderson sprints away. Some late braking by Wade, starting what could have been a very serious moment indeed. Thankfully though, only cosmetic damage done to but 3 or 4 cars. And once Wade had found a gap in the traffic, he was able to set off again, albeit flat last. Meantime, Mark Hales had been pulled out in front and was stroking it home. Away down from Colin Blower, with Chris Marries in 3rd, Steve Cole 4th, and a spirited drive from Neil Anderson had put him up into 5th. As all this battling raged on further down the field, Hales, the ex-British Touring Car Championship racer, was able to pull away up front. Nick Cresswell had his moments, as did this man, Chris Webster, spinning out of the hairpin. Peter Wheeler, the TVR chairman, arrived at the hairpin, finding a cloud of smoke in front of him. As Neil Anderson had battled his way past Steve Cole, but not for long. A big slide, costing him many places. He kept the engine running and set off again, though Cole and Blower were long gone. The reigning champion, Colin Blower, the Hinkley Garage owner, 1993 wasn't quite as successful as he'd bargained for. 1991 champion, however, Steve Cole, was very grateful to Neil Anderson for spinning out of his way. Mark Hales, however, still led, making this particular TVR challenge race very easy indeed. Colin Blower was having a lonely drive in 2nd place, working his way now through the back markers. TVR Power Director Graham Nash was involved in the action with Andy Purvis, the ex-motorcycle racer going up onto the grass, and then a big spin all of his own. Hales accelerated up towards the checkered flag and victory here at Mondello Park. Wins the first race, he was hopeful therefore of winning the second one as well. Pole position with Colin Blower alongside him, Hales got a good getaway, as did Steve Cole from row 2, with Peter Wheeler 4th on the grid right behind them. Into the hairpin they went, through came Bob Sands on the inside, and Wheeler fought back coming out of the hairpin. Colin Blower kicked up the dust, and then challenged Steve Cole on the inside. Graham Nash split Cole and Simon Wade as they battled their way around the lap. And then Nash challenged Steve Cole and gave him a push out of the way. Neil Anderson once again involved in the action, this time with John Kent. He muscled his way past the Preston driver and hung on to the base this time. Another big spin, this time Chris Marries. How about this for a smokescreen? When the road was clear, Marries set back into the race. Once again though, Mark Hales was heading for the checkered flag and victory, despite plenty of opposite luck. 2 out of 2 here in Ireland. Hales was now moving closer to the lead of the championship, and the opposition was making doubly sure he didn't get away. It was back to Silverstone, round 5. John Kent on the front row was in the dying seconds of practice, having had an engine problem earlier in the session. Away from the grid, pole sitter Mark Hales made the best start. John Kent got 2nd, and Colin Blower tucked in 3rd. Under braking for Cops though, Kent found a way into the lead. He was hoping he didn't have to relinquish it. The field found their way out of Cops, up now towards Maggots and then Beckett's. Hales, though, had found a way past under braking, and Kent had to drop back into second place. The order would remain this way to the flag, although John Kent certainly didn't give up. He braked as late as he dared at every available opportunity, but still Hales had the measure of him. Lower was dropping back in third, John Barker was up to fourth, Steve Cole fifth, and Chris Maris was up to sixth, and then Cole had a very big spin. And then produced an even bigger smokescreen than Maris had done at Mondello Park. It all looked very spectacular, but it didn't really help Cole's progress terribly much. Peter Wheeler and Andy Purvis, continuing their season-long battle, had all got a bit physical here at Luffield too. Opposite lock from Wheeler, but Andy Purvis suffered most of all. As Wheeler slides to a halt, Purvis is still spinning. They recovered and carried on, no great harm done, although Wheeler had put ahead of Purvis at long last. Bob Hales was now closing up on the back markers, and in turn pulling well clear of John Kent. Turning from Brooklands, the journalist, sliding the car around, is heading for victory yet again here at Silverstone. Playing to the crowd and maintaining his concentration by getting the car sideways, the checkered flag at Silverstone in round 5 will fall yet again to this man, Mark Hales, who went into the lead of the championship here today. Silverstone, the cars moved to Donington Park, a full 2.5 miles from 370 Newson on a lovely summer's day. Away from the line, a very good start by Chris Hodgetts, having a one-off drive and starting from pole position. Looking back on his lower car, it was all happening on the way down towards Redgate. That's Tim Harvey on the inside of Chris Maris, and John Kent on the outside in the yellow car. Hodgetts led down the hill, with Mark Hales in second and Blower third. The drama, though, was going on behind at the moment. John Kent tried to pull clear of Tim Harvey and close up on Steve Cole. The gap between the two leaders wasn't extending as people had expected it to. Hodgetts still managed to keep up front. Hales was right there challenging. Blower was in touch in third, and a three-way fight for fourth. Steve Cole at the head of it. Not for long though. Kent powered past on the way down to the Melbourne hairpin. Two cars side by side, but under braking, Kent managed to get through. They turn into the right-hander. Coming out in front this time was John Kent. Graham Nash had another moment. This time a big spin at the old hairpin. Kept the car facing the right way and set off with barely any time lost at all. Out of the race though was Nick Harrison, parked on the grass with flame coming out of the car. Hales and Kent now first and second after Chris Hodgetts had retired with engine problems. Blower dropped down the field as well, and John Kent, as he had done at Silverstone, saw chance to beat Mark Hales. In nothing spirited last lap, he was gaining all the time as the race came up towards the checkered flag. Down to the Melbourne hairpin, it didn't look as though he was close enough. Then Mark Hales made a slight error. He locked up, he ran wide, Kent saw his opportunity and went for it. The gap was closed, and it was nose-to-tail stuff as they came up towards Goddard's, the final corner on the lap. Hales checked his mirror, took the best line to the corner, and was able to defend it through Goddard's up to the checkered flag. It was victory once again for Hales, with John Kent a close and frustrated second. After round 6 of the championship, it was clear that Mark Hales was the man to beat, although Steve Cole and John Kent were giving vigorous pursuit. Join us here on Best of British for the second half of the year, after the break.
Wow.
Welcome back to Best of British here on Sky Sports. We're at Alton Park for round 7 of the TVR Tuscan Challenge, the second half of the season. In this, the championship review. John Kent was starting from pole position, Tim Harvey was alongside him, and Steve Cole, who won here at Easter, was hoping for his second victory of the season. Kent had finished second in the last 2 races and was determined for success here today. Nick Cresswell started further down the grid, another driver very capable of good results. The lights went green and away they went. A good start from Cole, but an even better one from John Kent, who was pulling away as they went down towards Old Hall. Tim Harvey on the outside of Steve Cole, braving it out with him. They turned through the right-hander and then charged off towards Cascades. It was clear that this race would be a battle between John Kent and Tim Harvey. John Barker was well down the field, just clear of TVR chairman Peter Wheeler. field poured through Cascades on its way towards Island Bend and then towards Shadow's Corner. Steve Curl was in third place. You can see the two leaders escaping in front, but he was still well clear of the man that led the championship, Mark Hales. Out of Shell, up now towards Fulston's, the left-right-left chicane, with Kent trying to pull away from Tim Harvey. Cole was third, with Simon Wade right behind him. Victor Napoleon under a great deal of pressure. Cole would have been sideways coming through Fulston's. Over hill top and down to the difficult chicane they went. Tim Harvey dropping down from race leader John Kent. Simon Wade challenging very hard indeed for third. And it sort of worked. The pair of them missed out the chicane. They went across the grass, but Wayne had indeed succeeded. He was ahead of a very cross Cole. The battle for the lead, though, was getting even more exciting, and Harvey went for a gap at Cascade with just a lap to go, and he found it. The reigning British Touring Car champion was in the lead, and Tim Harvey was on target for the only TVR Tuscan win of the season. The Wayne and Cole battle hadn't finished either. Into the pits, though, was Nick Cresswell. His race was run, and Simon Wayne and Steve Cole both had damage on their cars. Into Lodge came the lead battle. Kent went for it. He found the grass, he found the lead, and then he found second place again. Out of Lodge and up Deer Leap they went, as Graham Nash disappeared into the tar wall out of the race, but perfectly okay. Victory then at Alton Park would go to Tim Harvey, with John Kent right there in second place. From Cheshire, the series moved on to Brands Hatch in Kent. John Kent was on pole position, with Colin Blower right alongside him. Away from the green light, Kent tried to capitalise on his pole position, though pole at Brands isn't always the best place to be. It turned out to be the case. The second fastest man, Colin Blower, went round the outside into the lead. Through paddock they went, the run up towards Druids, showing Colin Blower in the lead, Kent second and Steve Cole in third. Mark Hales hadn't won for a bit, he was down in fourth place. Mark Goddard, in the car prepared by Colin Blower, went wide, with steam coming out of it. Steve Cole barged his way up the inside for second, punching Kent off in the process. He was then hit by Hales, getting rather messy. Hales spun and off into the gravel trap at paddock from the TVR engineering car. Colin Blower was out in front, trying to pull away with Simon Wayne in second place. Out of Clark Curve they came, up across the line. Blower's lead increased and Wayne was in trouble. The car had slowed right down and through came Steve Cole, up into second place. Wayne's day was done. The car crawled across the line, shortly to retire. A great shame after one of his best races of the season. The car got as far as paddock, and that was where it stayed. Colin Blower, meantime, was on target for victory. He made his way into clearways, setting the car up then to Clark Curve, up towards the end of the lap. The reigning champion hadn't won at all this year prior to now. He was very determined indeed to take the checkered flag first. Out of Clark Curve he came, accelerated up towards the checkered flag, and victory at Brands Hatch went to the Leicestershire driver, Colin Blower. From Kent, the series moved to Norfolk. Round 9 would take place at Snetterton. John Kent was on pole position,